Welcome to Hobbyist Now, your one-stop shop.
For all things nerdy and dirty.
That's right. Hi, I'm Claudian, and this is Nick. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share if you like what you see. Also, leave a comment. We would love to hear from you.
We're also on Spotify. The link is in our bio.
So, we're going to start off the show with some news. Nick, what do you got for us?
So game devs and Stadia employees alike were actually blindsided by a shutdown recently.
Yeah. Yeah. For those who don't know, Google Stadia has been shut down entirely. In fact, for those that have spent any money on it or have spent money especially on pre-orders or any recent games have been basically refunded, or there's a refund program. So if anybody's got questions about that, just check out the Stadia website. I'm sure that's the first thing you're gonna run into when you get over there. But yeah, it's crazy.
Can't say I'm really surprised though, honestly. They didn't
Yeah.
promote it whatsoever, and
Well, from memory serves, they did some real poopy things for the for like for like dev relationships to uh players. So then essentially came down to they were sending out games that were exclusively on Stadia, which was a platform that wasn't really being used. So like people that really wanted to get their exclusives for PC could only get through like Stadia, for example, and that really I remember that was like pissing a lot of people off. I know they got away from that over time, but um, they just I guess it's just was coming. Like,
yeah.
but shame though.
In more lighter news,
Yeah.
McDonald's is actually rolling out a program to create Happy Meals for adults, which will actually feature like nostalgic, like older packaging,
Mm.
as well as some special toys beginning October 3rd. So these menus will actually include the Big Mac, the 10-piece, fries, and obviously a drink, for the ultimate kids meal. So all the collectibles that will be in there are the toys, if you will actually be Grimace, the Hamburglar, Birdie, and then there's a new character, the Cactus Buddy, which is actually exclusive to the Cactus Flea Market box. I don't know where they came up with the name for these, but that's actually what they have going on now.
Well, I'm a big kid.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna probably end up getting one just to see what it's about.
Yeah, I think we should just go in and just buy them all.
Just a review.
Be like, yeah.
Uh, we're actually gonna move over to Claudian for a little bit
Yeah.
more news.
So we got some releases coming out. October's a very busy month.
So busy.
I guess the big one is for a lot of people I know is gonna definitely be Bleach, Thousand Year Blood War. That comes out October 10th, just around the corner.
Kind of scared though to see what.
Yeah, it's a Disney
Yeah.
IP now. So I have actually no idea how they're gonna handle this. Um, Disney is not the company I think about when
Think
talking
anime
about
in
anime
general.
and
Yeah.
but who knows? I mean, they had a long relationship with Studio Ghibli, so we'll just have to see. Another release, a big one for kind of us, I guess, because
Yeah.
for those who are new to us and don't know much about us, we actually started out with Gundam and Gundam Wing and Gunpla, doing a show on that. So and
That's actually how we met.
So it's how we actually met. So we're actually really into the whole community with Gunpla and Gundam all together. So this is a big one. Mobile Suit Gundam, The Witch of Mercury. It's finally released October 2nd. So it'll already be out when this episode's out. And part 2 will air the following April. So April 2023. Again, going back to something that both of us had reviewed on another show, season 2 of Spy X Family, which we loved, by the way.
God, yes.
It is a great show. Just to sum up our previous review, it's adorable.
It's adorable. It's refreshing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no.
If you love kind of like 1950s espionage and you kind of get the jokes,
Yeah.
it's very cliche, but it's well done. and people are cosplaying it a lot now, so
Okay.
I see a lot of it. Another one that's kind of more close to my heart is Berserk is getting the Golden Arc Memorial Edition. So what that is, for those who don't know, is in fact the 2012 through 2013 uh, film trilogy by Studio 4C. They did that blend between animation and CGI, but they didn't go full CGI. You never go full CGI, and they like the previous show. I think that was like the 2016
Yeah, it was
actual show.
full CGI.
But this is the Memorial Edition. For those who know, the creator of Berserk, Memoria passed away May 6th, 2021. It was a sudden death, so a lot of people were feeling it, especially with this being a manga in general. Going to the actual source material, it wasn't complete. So people were wondering what was going to come of the manga altogether. On the note of that, it is going to be continued by people that had closely worked with them. So maybe we'll do news on that down the road when we hear more about those. So Nick, I know this is your favorite segment. We got some really exciting figures you want to discuss.
Oh God, yes. Okay, so actually backtracking just ever so slightly,
Mhm.
we spoke about Spy X Family, um, and in the previous episode at that as well. So it seems like there's kind of a thing going on here.
Yeah.
So they actually have a figure arts Lloyd Forger being released. Mind you, everything that I'm going to discuss will be released in November of this year.
Hmm.
Lloyd will actually cost a whopping $45 US, 46 euros, 69 Australian, and then 61 Canadian. He'll actually be over here, so you'll get to see what he kind of looks like. Very posable, and has multiple faces, hands, and regular figure art stuff.
Hmm.
Moving on to another just beloved show. I actually enjoyed this far more than I ever enjoyed Pokemon, but that's for another time.
Hmm.
Mega House series Digimon Adventures Greymon and Tai. Um, he will cost about $83 US, 86 euro, 128 Australian, and about 114 Canadian. He looks to be very large, and like I said, he also comes with tie. He's on his back hanging off. The picture will actually be over here on the side. Um, and then another fantastic anime figure. They actually have the Shibuya Incident, Jujutsu Kaisen Zero, Yuta Okotsu, and Rika figure. Rika's in her smaller human form, which again you'll see over here. Much more pricey, but
Hmm.
a
Yeah, a lot
lot
more.
more detail.
Yeah.
But 206 US, 214 euro, 318 Australian, and 282 Canadian. So pretty pricey, but I mean, look, you'll see. And actually, speaking of which, the Jujutsu Kaisen Zero movie is actually on Crunchyroll for those of you who don't know. So
Okay.
definitely worth a watch. And ending that off on a good note.
We got some unexpected news for those who like myself that follow Ryan Reynolds on TikTok. We all got a special little video from him. It just shows Ryan Reynolds doing just everyday things, and he's talking about the new Deadpool film. And the very tail end of it, he sits on a couch, and you see somebody walk by, and this person's going up the steps, and he just inquires to the person and says, "Hey, Hugh Jackman, you want to play Wolverine again?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, sure." And then it cuts to the famous Deadpool logo with the slashes that appear. So yeah, Hugh Jackman will be reprising his role. So far, we have no scripts for it, but to see Hugh Jackman reprise his role as Wolverine, I love Hugh Jackman.
Oh
So
God,
I
he is Wolverine.
I can't. I feel the same way about him as Ryan Reynolds feels about him. But he might be his last thing, I'm guessing. We all thought that Logan would have been his last, but
I mean, he said it was his last, but we'll see.
also there's no script yet, and it's like 2 years before.
9/6/24
Yeah.
actually.
So
They already have a release date, which
it's
is wild.
yeah, but these films, especially like these temple films, they're called temple, like big movies and stuff like these. It takes 6 months to shoot. Like they usually go real smooth. So yeah, yeah, it should be exciting though. I'm kind of excited. It might have been just a publicity because Marvel's kind of not really been getting the traction they've been wanting, especially with more recent films and television.
Yeah.
So I know that this could be a way to potentially hype up fans like myself, and I know you are too, of Marvel and DC and all of the stuff. So moving on to something else, we both watched this the other night. In fact, the Callisto Protocol trailer just dropped, and this is for those who don't know, it's a new game by what are they, Monolith Studios, the
Yeah, I
company
believe so.
that did the
The original
Dead Space
trilogy.
game, yeah, the Dead Space games, and wow, holy crap! By the way, just so everybody knows, I'm a scaredy pants, so I will probably be pissing and shitting while I'm
I'm right there with you.
Wow.
I had to play the original 2 with
Yeah.
like lights or during the day.
It looks insane, for sure. But I know we both are extremely excited about it. Nick, speaking of horror, I guess we're going to be on this for the rest of the show, huh?
Yeah. So, and some other terrifying news, I guess to go with this spooky season, we actually have the Resident Evil 4 remake is actually slated to be released on March 24th of 2023.
Mm-hmm.
So next year. So, and relatively soon. I mean, all things considered, but I have some justified worries.
Some scary worries, you might
yes.
say.
They actually changed Ada's outfit, which she actually just wears a sweater and some other stuff, but I know they're trying to stop the sexualization of women, which I'm totally for, but Ada's outfit, her dress is her. It's her. Everyone knows Ada by her red dress. Anyone who's ever played the games and seen her, that red dress is Ada. Ashley Graham, actually, the president's daughter, got a complete rework. She looks completely different than she did originally, and is supposed to play a much bigger role in this game, which will either be interesting or terrible. Only time will tell on that one. The tones, everything, it just seems much darker. Lots of blues and grays, and the tone, just everything in general just seems much darker than it was originally, which seems like it'll be a good thing. Maybe they'll go back more towards their roots, actual, scary games. And then, this is one of the things that kind of made me sad about hearing this. Krauser has actually been removed entirely from the game. For those who don't know, he was the dude with the big like sword arm that you fought on top of that, on top of the ruins. So that'll be interesting to see if they actually did cut him or if they were just, red herring us. So we'll see on that one. And then
here it comes.
The worst thing that they could have done. So for one, they gave Mendez a hat, which I know doesn't sound like crazy, but that bald man was so much more menacing, and him with this goofy Amish hat it's
yeah.
I'm not gonna be able to take him serious.
Yeah, I mean, for y'all to take me serious, I say I'm going to show up bald.
See that?
I see it works.
Just stand there menacingly.
Yeah.
I would dig that.
It works.
And then they made him a doctor.
Yeah.
Which doctors, yeah, they're scary or whatever, but like, it's just weird. Like, he was just Chief Mendez, and that's really what I want. So our main topic, actually moving on to it, well, as you can tell already, for those who've watched our show before, usually we have our centerpieces or main topic, and we are talking about the whole Resident Evil franchise.
Yes.
So these remakes, we actually both played. Claudian played 3, and I played 2.
And then I played a little bit of the of Resident Evil, the remastered HD, which is the just the original, but without the tank, that bullshit tank maneuver. I tried playing the original director's cut, and I even talked to Nick about this. I was like, I can't play this. I can't move. He's like, oh yeah, it's that unusual tank maneuver.
Yeah, the old tank controls.
So,
But this game itself is 2 was really good and pretty faithful, but this one not so much. They cut a lot out of it, and that's kind of what I'm worried about for Resident Evil 4, changing it entirely. But again, we're gonna move on to our main topic. Claudia, you want to take over from here?
Yeah. So yeah, now we're gonna move to our main subject. For those who are watching this. As you see in the center here, we do in fact have, like Nick said, the Resident Evil collection here. We got a little liquor here. We got this amazing knife. Look at this thing, Biohazard, by the way. Isn't that cool? And Resident Evil remake, the third one, which is the one I played recently. But yeah, so. The rest of the night, we're going to talk about Resident Evil. We thought it would be a good first episode for the October, to get in the Halloween spirit. So, yeah. In fact, those many people may not know this, but actually, it's called Biohazard in Japan. Resident Evil, in fact, got its name because there was a DOS. Remember DOS? Who remembers that? Base game that had just come out with the same title. And could you believe this? There was a hardcore, of all things, a hardcore band with the same name. So we're out at the same time. So the creators of Resident Evil, Senji Mikami and Toru Fujiwara, had a competition to name the game for U.S. release. The first Resident Evil was created by Senji Mikami and Tokyo Fujiwara. Did you know that also Mikami, in fact, did not want to do this game because he actually, just like us, were so fearful of like horror games and horror in general. But Fujiwara thought it was great because it would be like, this is somebody that could give the player a realistic like feeling, because he would be in that spot as director and stuff for the game. I just thought that was an interesting thing. So it was released in 1996 for the PlayStation. Was meant, in fact, to be a remake of all things of another game. Fujiwara had created a game in 1989 called Sweet Home, and has basically launched into this massive thing. For many people that may know, now there's the movies. So from 2002 to 2016, there have been 6 live-action Resident Evil films. All were written and produced by Paul W.S. Anderson, who's a mediocre director, but regardless, the series had made over $1 billion worldwide. They are, to date, the only video game adaptations to increase the amount of money for each film. So each film has been making more money after each film. The series holds the record for the most live-action films of a video game with the Guinness Book World Record Gamers Edition. A reboot of Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City, was released in November 24, 2021 by Johannes Roberts as the writer and director. Nick, have you seen any of these? And what are your thoughts on the films?
So I've actually seen every single one of these. Actually was excited as a child to go see the first 3.
Yeah.
And then they just completely, like the third one, it's got completely away from the video games and became its own
Oh
thing.
yeah, that's the desert one, right?
Yeah, which was basically just Paul Anderson showing off his wife Mila Jovovich, which was weird. But yeah,
but they had zombie crows.
Yeah, the zombie crows.
Yeah.
But yeah, I seen those. They were meh. I mean, I'm glad that they made money and didn't blacklist the game. The first one was good. Second one was okay, and then it just downhill.
Yeah, oddly enough, I think you and I we can actually say this. We have actually seen at least the first 3 in theaters.
Yeah.
When they originally released. not to age us or anything, but
See,
yeah,
I feel super old.
we definitely we saw. I actually loved the first one. It was just so like holy smokes because like it was a real adventure for like Nest. Got to see it, and it was kind of like just a really interesting perspective. We loved the second one because that was like that was so Resident Evil. You had like Jill Valentine who looked great. You had everybody. I mean, it looked legit. Like the liquor, everything. Like it felt like a Resident Evil for sure. If anything, that was probably the most Resident Evil ever film, in my opinion. Would you agree with that one?
Yeah, Resident Evil. The
Two,
casting for 2
yeah,
was pretty spot on. I mean, that's where you got a lot. Like Jill was
yeah,
like perfect.
yeah. You had your witty characters, and the suspicious kind of like sleaze back character. It was you had the
Oh, Elva.
reporter, you had the
Yeah.
reporter. It was a campy. It was really campy, but I think it was perfect.
Oh yeah.
And then yeah, 2021 came, and we got this Welcome to Raccoon City, which um I ain't gonna lie, I had watched it. I actually do not remember a thing in it.
We both did.
Nick and I actually had long discussions while researching and stuff, and he was like telling me, he's like, this happened in this movie. I'm like, did it? And I'm like, oh wow, did it? Like, I forgot. Like, so just to give you an idea how much I didn't care about it. I didn't really care too much about it. But yeah, actually, did you know that George Romeo did commercials for Resident Evil?
Yeah.
For the actual commercials in the
Yeah, for the
90s.
original
Isn't that
Resident Evil.
crazy? Yeah. So there's like the live actions, and then there are the CGI films, and so we're gonna move to them now. Nick, you wanna lead us into those?
Of course, these are actually my favorite renditions of Resident Evil as far as film is concerned. Okay, so they actually had so their very first animated film was actually Biohazard 4 Executor, which was a 3D film. And when I say 3D, I mean like old school red and blue glasses, like those little paper ones. And it was actually made for a Japanese theme park. Unfortunately, it did not include absolutely any of the main characters. However, um, it is actually on YouTube, so it's around still. You can see it, and it doesn't have like that weird blue and red like haze over it either. So if you want to watch it, that's one way too.
It's about 20. I think it's about 20 minutes long,
Something like that.
you
Yeah.
know.
It's basically a ride, one of those old school 3D rides. It's pretty cool. And then we get into my like actual like these are my favorites. I actually own 2 of them. In 2008 they had Resident Evil Degeneration, and then Resident Evil Damnation and Resident Evil Vendetta. So all these films actually take place in the game's continuity and involve like the main characters like Leon, Claire, Ada, Chris, and Rebecca. So they're a little closer to home than the original movies because you're actually getting legitimate characters who look like the characters that you play in the video games.
Yeah.
Which is important. And personally, it's important to me.
Yeah. Like they're just essentially like long cutscenes.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, so you got any thoughts on these? Have you seen any of them?
I did check out Biohazard 4D Executor. Like we were saying, it's on YouTube. It's a little confusing because when you go search it up, it's like it hits you with a bunch of stuff. Like there's a remaster, there's this, there's that. So I found one that kind of I would assumed was the right one, and you can tell it was like situated for some sort of you being in motion or something, because it's for you to just sit there and watch it. It's kind of difficult. It was definitely meant for you to be experiencing it versus just watching it on YouTube. I don't think they had any indications of that ever being the case. And then I saw Degeneration and Damnation, and I think I felt like they were the same movie.
That's actually a fair assessment.
So
I think.
so if that was the case, then I did see the right 2 movies, and they were all right. Like Nick was saying, they follow a lot of the same characters. it felt right at home. So if you're really into like lore building and stuff, they really hone in on that. And they're just essentially side missions that they do between, I believe, between different games, are what these are. So, and they're of course fighting Umbrella and so
Yeah.
forth.
So actually, we'll actually be moving on from this portion, which these are essentially the same, but we'll be they're not on the same like platform.
Mm.
So they actually stream these things. Claudian, why don't
Yeah.
you give us some of the new streaming stuff?
Yeah. So recently, Netflix has been streaming a lot of various IPs, and one of the IPs they have been doing has been Resident Evil. So one of the shows, going back to CGI, is a 4-part series that is called Infinite Darkness, and it was released in July 8th, 2021, and I don't want to spoil this or talk too much about it because it's actually really good. And then, but it does in fact have Leon and Claire in it. So if you love those characters, you'll be right at home. And then, and I highly recommend watching. Now,
Oh no.
we have to get over this, but yeah, Resident Evil, the Netflix original series, which came out on July 14th, 2022, is an eight episode live action series. It follows two plot lines set in 2022 and 2036. Follows Albert Wesker and his daughters navigating Umbrella's experiments in New Raccoon City. Honestly, it's garbage. It has actually been canceled, so it's outright. So there's not going to be any new.
Don't waste your time.
Any new episodes, so don't even worry about it. Nick, what any opinions you have on either of these per se?
So Infinite Darkness, like you said,
Yeah.
absolutely phenomenal.
Phenomenal CGI, by the way,
yeah.
top notch.
Top notch. The only thing I didn't care for was like kind of like what you were talking about. It just ends.
Yeah.
It just stops, and you're just kind of like,
what?
Like,
Yeah.
there's supposed to be more.
Yeah. I was like looking at it like I was looking at the info, and I was like,
wait,
is there gonna be a part 2? Like, because a lot of times
Yeah.
Netflix will announce part 2 of something. You know what? Think about it now. Be the Beginning does the same thing too, where season 2, part 1, and then it just abruptly ends, and there
might be. Hopefully there is, because I would like a continuation for this.
Yeah.
But as far as this hot garbage is concerned, Resident Evil,
yeah,
the live, so that one I'm not gonna waste your guys' time on it. It's terrible.
Yeah.
The actor choices were absolutely atrocious. I mean, the main guy that they chose is a phenomenal actor
for Albert Wesker. Yeah.
But he's not Albert Wesker.
No,
it was he was just very out of character. The
Uh.
whole thing was very confusing, and they tried to make it something it wasn't. But
Well,
that's my opinion on it.
well, Nick, I want you to feel happy, and we all know secretly that you just love merchandise. So let's
yes.
just like any well-adjusted man like ourselves. Let's talk about merchandise. Nick, you want to talk about that?
So if you can't tell already, I am basically a child with adult money.
Yes, we all are.
Yeah, because I most of my money is either spent on Gunpla or collectibles like this.
Yeah.
So as far as merchandising goes, I mean, Resident Evil has there's no dearth of merchandise, like that's for sure. That they have a Resident Evil themed restaurant in Japan, or at least they did. I don't know if it's still open. It was kind of hard to find information on that. They have action figures, as you can tell from Toy Biz, Pulsades, and NECA, and Hot Toys. This one's actually from, I believe, Toy Biz.
And they got pops too, right?
Yeah,
Pops.
they have a bunch of pops. Tyrant Liquor, Hunters, Leon, just everybody. Anyone you can think of, they pretty much have as a pop, main character wise, or main enemy type. Like I think they even have a Crimson Head. They also have airsoft guns, which these are really expensive and super hard to find, and they come in special cases. But they have the Desert Eagle, the Samurai Edge, and then they have the Gold Lugers from the Resident Evil
Code Veronica.
Code Veronica. Yeah,
Yeah.
the two Gold Lugers. These are just so beautiful, and they're all green gas guns. For those of you who don't know, it's actually the ones where you put the canister in the bottom, and they're all they're filled with air. They have energy drinks, the T-virus antidote. They also have, which we'll call back to our previous episodes for those of you who watched it. They actually have the Brady guides, who made, for a plethora of games.
Yeah, Brady games. A lot of us who were actually playing like games where we actually had to go out and like literally before the internet, you had to actually buy game guides if you wanted to,
Yeah.
if you were getting struggling with the game and like myself. So I had like all the Final Fantasies and stuff. But Brady Games would publish these beautiful, beautiful guides. I was really hoping to find my Xenogears one, but I do not, for some reason, have it anymore. But and yeah, it was beautiful. Like it would like sum up the entire story plot, stats, where to go, where all the items were at, how to play the game, and then even give you like tidbits of like the story. So
And extra lore, background stuff.
yeah,
It was very, very well put together. I mean,
Yeah.
they were just fun all around. But so actually, speaking of more of this,
yeah.
merchandise.
So we're moving to novels, which I'm sure a lot of people know. There's a ton of novels out there for this franchise. For those who don't, there are in fact, and we're gonna go through some of them now. So these are all by S.T. Perry. I actually remember I would have friends like when I was in middle school, like reading these literally. So I know they're real, But yeah, so Resident Evil, The Umbrella Conspiracy, Resident Evil, Kelben's Cove, Resident Evil, City of the Dead, Resident Evil Underworld, Resident Evil Nemesis, Resident Evil Code Veronica, Resident Evil 0 Hour.
So actually, before you move on, all of these S.D. Perry novels are actually on Spotify, and they're on Spotify. They're audiobooks. So if you just look up Resident Evil audiobooks on Spotify, you can actually find all these, and I highly suggest them. They're very in depth. They're very well read. Just it's worth the time. Honestly, I work on cars, and I'll literally listen to these books while I'm rebuilding them over
Right.
or doing whatever it is I do.
And then there's in fact, by the way, books. There's tons of comics also, tons of comics. And something I learned, how do you say them?
They're actually called manhwa.
Manhwas, which are apparently Chinese comics. I didn't even know, like news to me. But here's some of these: Biohazard 2, which was released in 1998. Biohazard 3, The Last Escape. Biohazard 3, Supplement Edition. Biohazard Code Veronica. Biohazard 0, 2003. Resident Evil, the official comic magazine. Wildstorm is by Wildstorm, which is a Western comic book publishing company, and that was released in 1998. Resident Evil Collections 1, which was released in 1999. Resident Evil Fire and Ice in December 2000. Resident Evil Code Veronica, July 2002. Resident Evil May 2009. And these are Western. Sorry, we didn't mention that. These were Western American comics, by the way. Nick, so you've read these books? Have you read these?
Yeah, actually, a lot of the manhwa I've actually read. So like if you can find these, they're worth a read. I mean, actually, there's a YouTube channel that actually reads all of these aloud, and he does a fantastic job. He had sound effects and everything. Like I'm kind of dorky, and I love that stuff.
Yeah.
And also the Fire and Ice comic books, which I actually owned when I was a child. But as a child, you ruin things.
Yeah.
Especially comic books. But those are phenomenal. The They're pretty easy to find. I believe they're on quite a few of those like online comic book services. So yeah, if you can get a hold of any of these, they're definitely they're like I said, they're worth the read.
So for the novels, what would you describe them as, just in general, like just for somebody who is thinking about reading them, they just don't have time, or if they want to hop in them, what are they expecting when they read these or hear these books?
So when you go into the novels,
Yeah.
they might not be exactly what you expect. Like, oh, they're just going to be a reiteration of the games, which in a sense they are, but they're a much broader view of it.
Hmm.
Like for the Resident Evil Zero book, there when you're following Billy Cohen and Rebecca, you actually get cut to parts where Wesker and Birkin are actually talking to each other. So you get a lot of dialogue that you didn't get in the video game.
Mm.
Uh, like their thoughts while they're being attacked by any of like the bio weapons,
Yeah.
and it really just it gives you a better view of what's going on and how they're feeling and other characters that you might not have actually gotten to know or know what they're thinking, which to me, especially for that, I love lore. So
Yeah, I mean, we do. We both of us. You mentioned also for the comics, as we were talking for research, that the comics are sort of like a different perspective from different characters that we have never met before, like, but their points of view.
oh yeah, oh, so like a lot of the comic books are actually like they're not, a lot of them aren't main character ones.
Hmm.
So you're getting like other survivors. Like there's one where this woman and this man actually get trapped on this island, and like they die at the end. So like it doesn't necessarily matter not to. I mean, it won't spoil it for you. I mean, you can
Yeah,
tell from the beginning, but it's just it's a bigger look into how everyone else dealt with this and how lucky the few were that did survive and made this seem so easy that we got to enjoy.
okay. I haven't had a chance to read any of these yet, and I'm personally planning on listening to these, especially the audiobooks. I love audiobooks. Audible, please find us, and please Audible. I would love to be
Oh
sponsored
yeah,
by you guys.
please.
um, but did you know, before researching, that Resident Evil actually has plays?
I knew of the one
Okay.
because it's canon,
Yeah.
but I didn't know about all these.
Yeah. Well, for those that are into the musicals, we're gonna go through some of the plays that they had. So apparently they have plays. So who knew, right? In the summer of 2000, Bioroid Year Zero was performed in Japan. It was a musical horror comedy, but took the perspective of the infected. Interesting. Biohazard, the stage, was released in Japan in 2015. The play focuses on iconic characters Chris Redfield and Rebecca Chambers as psychology school a university in Australia is experiencing a bio-terrorist attack. The production was handled by AVEX Live Creative and Ace Crew Entertainment under supervision of Capcom. Wow. I actually saw this, parts of it on YouTube, so you can find this one on YouTube if anyone's interested. It's not a bad production, I would say. And then the following year, musical Biohazard Voice of Gaia was released in September. It was produced by Umbrella Arts Theater, by director G2 and composer Shinzuku Wada. Biohazard: The Experience was the second Resident Evil play produced by Avex Live Creative and Ace Crew Entertainment. Story is set in 2015 and follows a cast of 13 survivors who were abducted and woke up in a mansion during an outbreak. Well, hopefully, hopefully, hopefully those are good. Like I said, I know Biohazard the Stage is on YouTube. I did not check to see if Voice of Gaia, but I know the other one is not on anywhere. Bioroids. So, but for anyone who's probably saw it, hopefully you had a good time watching those. That's kind of interesting. Nick, what do you think about that?
I've only seen technically, I guess I've seen two. I seen the Biohazard the Stage, and I actually have seen the Biohazard Experience, which the Biohazard Experience one from the very few parts that I did see,
Yeah.
is actually really good.
Is it? Okay.
Most of it, I put in my Bluetooth headphone and I'll listen to it.
Okay.
Because somebody actually reads this stuff aloud. I think you can find that one on YouTube as well. I believe that's how I actually watched it. So it's very interesting. Both of those, the musical ones, the other ones are a little more silly.
Yeah.
But those other two are actually canon and actually part of the story. So they're interesting, just extra looks into it. They don't affect the main characters, but it's still interesting to see.
Yeah. For those who had the opportunity of seeing them, I hope it was like a great experience. What I saw on YouTube looked interesting enough. So, but now we are finally going to the big chunk of this, the
meat and the potatoes,
the meat and the potatoes, boys and girls. We are definitely going to be talking about the games now. So, just minor caveats I want to mention. We're going to do this in chronological order, so not based on games released, but actual timeline of the games. We're also going to just touch base with where the characters start off at. We're not going to go into the ends of the game or any real explanations like that. There's plenty of material out there. We feel that there's just too much information. We could have literally hours of just
like
one
a
30-part
episode.
Yeah.
Or 30 parts.
So we're trying to keep this really short. So we're going to fly through these real quick, and just please understand. And yeah, so we're going to start off with, again, chronological order, the very first one, and that brings us, right, Nick, to?
We actually start off with Resident Evil 0, which was released in 2002. The game itself actually takes place July 23rd to the 24th in 1998. So the train owned by Umbrella, which is actually called the Ecliptic Express, actually comes under attack from a storm of leeches. Slightly later, the S.T.A.R.S Bravo team is sent to investigate the murders that are happening in the Arklay Mountains outside of Raccoon City. On the way, spoiler alert, prior to this, someone named Albert Wesker had actually sabotaged the helicopter. So it ends up crash landing in the forest as they're searching the area to try and make sure they're all good and safe. Rebecca and some of the other Bravo team members actually stumble upon the Ecliptic Express. The train is found, in a stopped state. All the people on the plane or on the train are dead or turned into zombies or some form of bioweapon. She is actually unaware that the transformation is a result of the T-virus, which is actually from the leeches that you later on see in the game. During her exploration of the train, she actually runs into someone named Billy Cohen, who is a former Marine who is actually on his way to be executed. And Cerberus actually end up making the Humvee crash, and then he ends up being able to escape. So that's pretty much like a very brief rundown of that, and then here are some kind of like little fun bits about this. So Resident Evil 0 was actually intended to be on the Nintendo 64 in 2000. Billy Cohen's tattoo, Mother Love, is actually a reference to the song of the same name by the band Queen. And then during the development of Resident Evil 0, the developers actually toyed with the idea of running zombies, which, as everyone here should know, actually was reused later on in the 2002 Resident Evil remake for the Crimson Heads. Claudian, give us our next game.
Yeah, so again, going chronological order, we are now going to do the events of Resident Evil, the original game. Originally came out March 22nd, 1996. The game takes place between July 24th to the 25th, 1998. After contact with Bravo team is lost, Alpha team is sent in to investigate their disappearance. Alpha team locates Bravo team's crashed helicopter, and they are suddenly attacked by a pack of Cerberuses. For those who don't know, the scary dogs. I know they did a lot of commercials and stuff for these series with them. After Alpha team's helicopter pilot Brad Victors panics and takes off, the remaining members of the team, Chris Redfield, Joe Valentine, Albert Wesker, and Barry Burton are forced to seek refuge in a nearby abandoned mansion. That never works out, just so people know. The team decides to investigate the mansion to search for the missing team members. As the team members explore the mansion, they encounter bioweapons, or BOs, they're called in the game, roaming its halls. Alpha team eventually learns that a series of illegal experiments that were being undertaken by clandestine research teams under the supervision of Umbrella Corporation. The bioweapons, BOs, roaming the mansion and its surrounding areas are the results of these experiments, which have been exposed to the mansion's personnel and various animals and insects to the T-virus. The player's characters may also encounter members of Bravo team, including Enrico Morani, who reveals that one of the Alpha team's members is a traitor, before being shot and killed by that unseen assailant. It's Albert Wesker, just so if anybody was wondering. If there was any moment of, it's going to always be Albert Wesker, just so people know. This game was the first time the Tyrant enemy was first appears from the release of the game, but in Resident Evil 0 is actually when the characters first encounter the Tyrant. As a fun fact, so here's some facts. A zombified Albert Wesker can be found in the battle game minigame exclusive on the Saturn port. Resident Evil was supposed to be a multiplayer from the very beginning, but the option was dropped due to hardware limitations. Hideki Kamiya admitted that he got Joseph Frost's first name from a Shonen Jump manga character named Joestar from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Nick?
So now we're moving on to Resident Evil 3, the first half, which, Resident Evil 3 was actually dropped in 1999. The game itself took place September 26th to the 28th in 1998. The first half of the game of this is what actually appears in the chronological order. The latter half obviously takes place later. It takes place 2 months after the events of the original Resident Evil, and title approximately 1 day before the start of the following entry on the list. The first half of the game is actually Carlos taking Jill to a church hideout after she was poisoned by Nemesis, and they end up just hiding there for the next 3 days. So that part's a little less information heavy, because it's literally, Resident Evil 3 is one of the shorter games in the series, at least in my opinion, unless you literally fight Nemesis at every single turn. But as far as that, here's some fun things. It's actually possible to obtain a hidden file called Jill's Diary by collecting all 30 files in the game in a specific order. And if done correctly, this item will actually replace the game instructions A in the file menu. While the characters of Resident Evil 2 and 3 crossing paths was cut from the game, it was ultimately written into, again, the manhwa, which are the Chinese comics, adaptations of Resident Evil 3. One of Jill's alternate costumes is actually just a straight up reskin to Regina from Dino Crisis, so that's pretty cool. Claudian?
Yeah, so we're actually going back to Resident Evil 2 this time. Game was released July 21st, 1998, but the game takes place between September 29 to the 30th, 1998. 2 months after the events of the first Resident Evil, and just 24 hours after the first half of Resident Evil 3,
Yeah.
players can control both Leon S. Kennedy and Claire Redfield as they escape from the zombie-infested Raccoon City. Unlike other games, each character has paths that can take they can take during their storyline with unique partners and obstacles. Fun fact: in the N64 version of the game, you can see a dead hunter in the B4F culture room. This is the only hunter to appear in Resident Evil 2. Originally, the female lead was supposed to be Elza Walker. When Resident Evil 2 was made again, she was replaced by Claire Redfield. Elza's only appearance was in Resident Evil 1.5. The renowned director of zombie movies, George A. Romero, made a original live-action commercials for Resident Evil 2. He was later supposed to, in fact, direct the live-action Resident Evil movies, but the deal was given to Paul W.S. Anderson. Nick, like everybody's better half, you wanna talk about?
Yeah, I'll talk about the second
Resident
half
Evil 3?
actually. So Resident Evil 3, the second half, it actually takes place October 1st, 1998. Jill returns to, you actually play as Jill instead of Carlos in this one. And you're basically just trying to escape the Raccoon City with Carlos before the U.S. government nukes the entire city. And in this game, well, basically, and kill Nemesis and escape with the vaccine. So some little fun facts about this. There is actually Burger Kongs all throughout Raccoon City, and you'll actually see them. The actual signs themselves are very derivative of the 1994 and 1999 Burger King signs. So yeah. Also in the hospital, in the lobby, there's actually a Dino Crisis poster, which also shows the date of its original release, which was July 1st, 1999 in Japan. Claudian, give us some more.
Yeah, we're gonna move actually to the no longer the numbers, but actually this is Resident Evil Code Veronica, released in February 3rd, 2000, and again the game timeline we're in December 1998. Originally meant to serve as Resident Evil 3, Resident Evil Code Veronica became a side game for the hardcore Resident Evil fans as a, of all things, Dreamcast exclusive. Isn't that crazy? In this game, Claire Redfield is searching for her brother, Chris, but is captured by Umbrella and imprisoned on Rockfort Island. Here she must escape the prison infected with, again, T-virus, and with the outbreak, along with former Umbrella employee Steve Burnside. Hell of a name. Nick, you want to get back to the back to our numbers again?
So Resident Evil 4, which was released in 05, actually takes place in fall of 04. So for anyone who doesn't know, somehow, if you've been living under a rock, Resident Evil 4 is actually one of the biggest games and is probably most people's introductions to the Resident Evil franchise itself. So the game itself actually is a 6-year time skip, and Leon actually ends up being a special agent who is sent to save the president's daughter from a village in Spain. So the problem is that when you get there, you eventually run in. There's no longer zombies. It's these things called the Las Plagas parasite, or the Plagas. So Resident Evil 4 is not anywhere near any of these other games. They're all most of these older games are tank controlled or have some other thing going on with it. So it's very different for those who don't know. It's been ported on like 1,000 different game systems: Wii, PlayStation 2, GameCube, the mobile iPhone. I believe it's also on like the old Nokia phones. It's a little side scroller type deal.
Yeah.
So yes, there's a lot of those. So some fun things. The reload animation for the hand cannon is actually different before and after it's fully upgraded. Before the weapon is fully upgraded, Leon will actually reload the hand cannon with 3 bullets. And I think it actually holds like 7. So it's one of those games where they'll reload like 2 and the gun's full. However, when you upload or when it's fully upgraded, the animation actually uses a speed loader. The Lurching Man is an unused creature from the design, or as an unused creature in Resident Evil 4. He was actually planning to change form. Obviously, he never made it into this game. These games have a whole lot of unused designs. And then Nubby Technology, actually a game peripheral company, actually created the chainsaw controllers that were special specifically for this game, and they were both for the PS2 and GameCube. They were absolutely terrible and unusable. It was like a much, much worse version of a Nintendo 64
I don't know.
remote.
That sounds so hardcore, though. I ain't gonna lie.
Dude, it is. The case is beautiful. The controllers are beautiful. So yeah, speaking of beautiful, Claudian, why don't you move over to our next game?
Well, thank you. So we are actually going to now start the Revelations games. So Resident Evil Revelations, which was released January 26th, 2012, takes place in 2005. Classic character Jill Valentine and Chris Redfield turn to the series as they try to navigate the T-Abyss virus. Players are also introduced to Bioterrorism Security Assessment Alliance and a new faction that is combating the virus. Fun fact, you can see Hawk in the original trailer for the 3DS, even though he didn't appear until the HD version where he is unlocked as a character. He's an unlockable character. The original run of the 3DS version of the game misspelled the title as Resident Evil Revelations, but Revelations on the box.
Yeah, the I is out of place. It's on the wrong side of the T.
Yeah. Claire R. O'Brien and Parker Lucana both gave out some extra dialogue. If you play, if the players try to scan them with the Genesis scanner, no other character in the game reacts this way. Do you know the Genesis scanner? I'm actually not familiar with that part.
So the Genesis scanner is specifically for the Revelations game. It was more of a gimmicky thing because this game was actually initially released on the 3DS.
Yeah, right.
So that was just a gimmicky thing.
Oh, that was just interesting. So yeah, so if you have that and if you have the scanner and you scan it, you're gonna get some extra dialogue. So Nick, we're going back to the numbers.
So next is Resident Evil 5, which actually dropped in 2009. So like 1 year before I graduated. This game, actually in the timeline, March of 2009. So Chris is actually sent to Africa after a 4-year time skip. He's actually tracking down black market bioweapon dealers in Africa. This is actually the 9th Resident Evil entry. And it gets pretty far away from the original game. So for those of you who have not played it, which I don't know how you didn't, because this game was massive in 2009. One of the first games I actually got all the trophies for. However, yeah, it's vastly different than any of the other ones. I guess it's like 4. It's almost exactly like 4, except for it's got co-op. So, fun fact, Excella was actually originally supposed to be killed by a tyrant, similar to what happened to Albert Wesker in the original game. It would have been Wesker who actually ordered the tyrant to do so. Claudian, why don't you give us our next game?
Yeah, so again, you thought we were done with Revelations, but we are not. We have, in fact, Revelations 2, which was released February 24th, 2015, and takes place in 2011. Good old year, huh? A standalone title from the Resident Evil series, Claire Redfield returns to the forefront where she is working with TerraSave, a bioterror prevention agency in this installment. Besides Claire Redfield, the series also marks the first time players can play as S.T.A.R.S. Alpha Team's weapons specialist, Barry Burden. I know you had been waiting for that all your life. You were just like, now you can be the man that can say Jill sandwich all the time. Overall, it is a nice title that stands apart from the Resident Evil series, although not entirely necessarily if focused on the plot. The game contains multiple references to previous games in the series. Most notably, Claire tells Mora, a gun is more reliable than any person, quoting Steve from Code Veronica. Barry says he is the master of unlocking, referencing to a scene from the original game. And Claire says that she was almost a Claire sandwich, referencing to Barry from the first game. Also, worth noting that just like in her previous appearance, Claire wakes up abducted on a prison island overran by zombies and other creatures. At one point, the developers considered giving Nadia alternative ways of attacking, one of them being an ability to shoot lasers out of her fingers. Pew, 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 pew. Idea was even implemented in the game for a time during development, but was removed because it felt too superhero. Nick, we're gonna go to your favorite game. We know you've been dying to talk about this one.
Oh god, yeah. So Umbrella Corps was actually released in 2016, and the game takes place between March 12th, 2012 to November 20th, 2012. So as far as this game is concerned, it is I don't think it's anyone's favorite entry in the series. It's not even really like a good game. And as far as like chronological order, the only reason that stuff is even prevalent is due to the fact that you can hear a voice line from Wesker, which might imply that he is actually still alive. Which, again, Resident Evil 5 was released in 2009, so if you're not aware of this, I'm sorry, you might want to skip ahead 5 seconds, 10 seconds. Wesker dies in that. I'm going to put hard air quotes on that. No one thinks he's actually dead. He makes them too much money. So yeah, and also, so just so everyone's clear, one of the facts actually is the Easter egg, and then according to the game's producers, this game is actually completely canon to the series. The lore takes place in 2015. So yeah, like all this stuff is canon. So Umbrella Corps itself is a canon game. Claudia?
Yeah, so now we're going to Resident Evil 6, which was released in October 2nd, 2012. And it takes place between December 24th, 2012, and to December 25th. For those that skipped Umbrella Corps and possibly Resident Evil Revelations 2, you were treated to an epic experience as the players had the opportunity to play as nearly every major protagonist from the game's past. Overall, our past heroes come together to create one beautiful storm of chaos as they are all aimed to contain a new virus, the C virus. Perry Navas, Chris's partner in this campaign, originally debuted in a manga called Biohazard Marhana's Desire. He marks the first ever character in the series to debut in some other form of media then made in his way into a game. In the Umbrella Chaos map of Mercenaries, you can find an arcade with old Capcom games such as Star Gladiator, Sun, Ghosts and Goblins, and of course Darkstalkers. Nick, you want to do the 7?
Yeah, so Resident Evil 7 actually was dropped in 2017. The game timeline itself is also in 2017, July and August. So Resident Evil 7 will actually is the first introduction to a character named Ethan Winters. He's just an ordinary dude searching for his wife who disappeared. Later on, you figure out why she disappeared. But and he's searching a creepy mansion in Louisiana because he gets an email from her. And actually, so they move away from the zombies in this game entirely. And you're treated to something called the molded. So the mold monsters actually are pretty much your main enemy throughout the entire game, and then different variations of it and the family that you fight the bakers. So this game was not at first received very well because it is first person. It
Mhm.
is more like a Call of Duty game rather than a Resident Evil game. Um,
Even though it's terrifying as hell.
oh god, yeah. The game was fantastic in
Yeah.
my opinion, and I
Yeah.
love Resident Evil to
Yeah.
death, like everything about it. So some facts are Resident Evil 7 was actually the first title to incorporate both of the Japanese name and the Western name. It also the game is the first in the series to have been written by someone from the West. Richard Pierce. He actually is credited with narrative consult. He also worked on Spec Ops: The Line and Fear, and he worked on a couple other games, but those were the most notable. Claudia?
Yeah. Now we finally make it to the end. The very last entry so far. Besides the ones we announced earlier in the show. Resident Evil Village, which was released May 7th, 2021, and it takes place between February 8th to February 10th, 2021. Resident Evil Village continues Ethan Winter's story while honoring the previous lore from the other games. The moles from the previous game have created a new type of monster in this installment as Ethan must search through the world once again. Overall, Resident Evil Village is a wonderful entry in the franchise that has many fans of the series and excited for the future. And also something we didn't mention, we're no longer dealing with Umbrella anymore.
Yeah, no.
So these games are dealing with another entity. Yeah, so some sad news. Actress Jeanette Mayes, who voiced one of Lady Demetres's daughters, as well as several other characters in the game, had tragically passed away before the game's release. Mayes, who was 39, passed away on January 24th, 2021, after a battle with colon cancer. When activating the Duke's shop, there is a chance of the Duke might quote from the merchant from Resident Evil 4 and say the letters line,
"What are you buying, stranger?"
and then follow it with a mention that the merchant is a friend of the Duke's. In May 2021, Richard Passhorse, who directed the 2013 film Frankenstein's Army, accused Capcom of plagiarism because of the boss's enemies. Sturms look almost identical to the one of the monsters in the film. Wow, did we go through a lot of games?
Yeah, we did.
So, we're gonna talk just briefly about our experiences and rate it, and rate the I guess the games we played essentially. So, Nick, you wanna start with the ones you played, and you've played all of them essentially. So.
Yeah, literally. So I've legitimately played and beat almost every single one except for the older Nokia and like phone games.
Yeah.
So I played Gaiden, Dead Aim, Resident Evil. I mean, I've even played the board game over here.
Which we, by the way, have in front of us.
It's like Dungeons and Dragons, pretty much, but Resident Evil. But so for this one, I actually played the Resident Evil 2 remake, which this will be like my 7th or 8th time playing. It's pretty good. I've played it before, like I said. It's missing something. It's a good remake, but I feel like they took something away from it, and I can't explain what. Because Resident Evil 2 is actually my favorite game in the entire series. So with that being said, overall off of that, I give it like an 8.5. Just because, like I said, it might be the rose-colored glasses, but it hasn't been that long since I played the Nintendo 64 version of that. And it's just missing something. I don't know if it's because it's too easy or what, but the game itself is it's great, but it's not what I would call a 10. Claudia?
So I played the Resident Evil remastered HD edition. Um, and I played the game that's actually in front of us right here, Resident Evil Remake 3. But I'm very familiar with the other games and essentially the gameplay and everything, and the stories. So I would say that I'm glad that the remaster took away the tank maneuvers because I tried playing the director's cut of the original game, and it was just too difficult. That tank direction is just really confusing, and but it is what it is. It's a survival horror game. I'm talking about the original. That is also a inventory management. A lot of these, what people kind of get like weirded out about is you got to really manage your inventory because that'll kill you if you mishandle those. And so the game's okay. Playing them as an older person, now, and then playing this game, I enjoy definitely the remake of 3, due to the fact that it's just modern. I mean, it just these games I never grew up with per se. I was always a JRPG person because I am literally scared shitless of horror games. Like, so it's very hard for me to get into a horror game. But so for the remaster, for what I would argue is essentially like how important it is. It's not a broken game. It's a well designed game for what it is. I'd give it probably like a good 8. And then for the remaster, having not playing the original of for Resident Evil 3, that is, I think I'd fit it at around. It's a short game too. Was the original as short as this?
I don't think it was as short, but it was pretty short.
It
This
was
one
short.
I beat in 8 hours.
It is, well. That's pretty much what people beat this game in, is like around 8 hours. So, and that's people that really know how to manage and
Yeah,
stuff.
and I went through the entire game and
So,
picked up everything.
um, like I would say 8 because due to the fact that it's so much has gone into it. I feel like Capcom has done what a lot of companies are not doing, and they're really sort of keeping sort of this spirit of whatever the franchise is now to what it used to be. And so I'd give both these games that I have played an 8 for sure. I recommend everybody playing them. I'm pretty stoked for the new one. Village, I know, is phenomenal. 7, it's or it's called Biohazard, I believe. Um, those games are great. I don't think they wouldn't be as successful and have such a fan base if it wasn't for from the beginning to now and how they keep delivering.
Yeah.
So, but just want to thank everybody who has stuck to the end. This will be the end of this episode. Again, please like, comment, subscribe, share, and follow us.
For all of you follow us on Spotify if you haven't already. And thanks.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.